Jefferson Robbins with NCW Life. 5 people are running for Douglas County Commissioner. Some of them have prior elected experience. My current guest is one of those, Randy Agnew, Mayor of Rock Island. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Jeff.
You are running for Douglas County Commissioner in District 2, which is the district that encompasses Rock Island, where you've served as mayor for about 9 years now. For those who haven't had a chance to vote for you, don't live in Rock Island, introduce yourself. Who are you? What do you do?
I'm Randy Agnew. I've lived in the Valley most of my life. I'm a computer programmer. That's my normal day job. I have owned my own software development business for over 30 years. And other than that, I've been mayor for the last 9 years.
What's that experience been like? I mean, when you ran for mayor of Rock Island, obviously you thought you were up to the task. Have tasks come along that were, more than you thought you should be able to handle?
Not more than I could handle, but it was a learning experience. Mm-hmm. I was on the city council for 5 years before I ran for mayor. And sitting on the city council, you don't see the internal workings of the city. And as I've spoken with other mayors over the years and even county commissioners, your first term is spent learning how things work. Doesn't matter where you come from. If you've never ran government before, learning what you can do, what you can't do, how you have to do everything, and how slow it takes to get anything done.
What do you see as being Rock Island's place in the larger Douglas County? I mean, where does it fall in among Douglas County communities?
We're the fastest growing by a mile. We've grown 25% over the last, I think that's just since 2020. And in 2020, we were the 6th fastest growing city in the state of Washington as a percentage. So we're rapidly growing. I think we will continue to grow. It's just an ideal place. It's 7 to 8 minutes out of town, and it's just a great place to live. We have land, less expensive building there, so a lot of pluses and perks.
Well, when you're talking about running for Douglas County Commissioner, what kind of challenges did you see at Douglas County that you think you can apply some of what you've learned to fixing those problems?
It's not so much problems. I think the current county commissioners have done a pretty good job at improving things at the county in a lot of areas that they've had, that they've done. And I would just be interested in continuing that progress that they've made, seeing it continue. And as far as experience, as mayor, I was talking to the county commissioners this morning. As a mayor, on a much smaller scale, we pretty much do everything the county does. Building and permitting, roads, again, not at their scale. In fact, we do, like in Rock Island, we run the sewer plant, we run the sewer system, we run the water system. The county doesn't do that, so it's kind of like being the county, Douglas County Sewer District and East Wenatchee Water District all rolled into one. Also, parks.
Now, you were recently re-elected as mayor, correct? Just in 2023?
This is my 3rd term.
Now, you wouldn't be able to serve as mayor and as county commissioner at the same time. You've accepted that, I take it?
Yes.
All right. Because that's not a law, but it's an interpretation of state law that says that's the case.
Basically, the county is over the city and interacts with the city. I can't be on both sides of a contract.
Would you be sad to leave Rock Island as mayor?
Yes, in some ways, yes. There's a lot of things that we've been working towards and making good progress, but it takes so long to get things done that I haven't quite accomplished yet that I want to get done. But
the job is bigger than any one person or any one mayorship sometimes.
I guess, yes.
What would be your philosophy of managing the county, Randy? I mean, if you had like a guiding principle that you think you could apply in all cases as a commissioner, what would it be?
I represent the people. I don't just say that, I actually do it. And my first meeting with staff when I became the mayor of Rock Island, I explained that to them. I was elected by the people to represent the people first. I will represent the city second. And I have consistently done that all the time I've been mayor.
Well, how do you go about it, and how would you go about it as commissioner to keep the people's voice in mind? Do you hold more public meetings or take surveys?
One thing I was talking to Mark Straub about here recently, an idea that occurred to me. People don't come to council meetings, they don't go to commissioner meetings unless you've upset them. that's just the way it works. And consequently, I don't get to sit and talk to people unless I go out and knock on their door, which most people don't really care to have you knocking on their door. Anyway, so my idea was we should have a forum on our city website, likewise with the county. Why don't we have a forum where people can post whatever thoughts they have, and where we as elected officials can respond and also post our own information directly to the people. I think it's a great way to create interaction, and that's how life works in this day and age. Social media is, what everybody does.
It's going to be a great big public record you're going to have to keep track of for a really long time if you do that.
True. No, I don't have a problem with that.
Are there any priorities, Randy, that you think Douglas County has set where they, went the wrong direction? You disagreed with the priorities. You think to yourself, if I was commissioner when that decision was made, I would have voted the other way.
The only one I can really think of in that regard, and I understand their reasoning, but was banning fireworks. We've never had an issue with it, so we're solving a problem that doesn't really exist, in my opinion. And when they did that, they wanted all the cities to also ban fireworks, and Rock Island was the only one. I said no. It's never caused an issue, and I don't see it causing an issue, so didn't do that.
Let's hope it never does.
Yeah.
But another issue that came up before your city and other small cities was when the sheriff's office in Douglas County had to raise the price of policing, essentially.
Yes.
Raise the cost of those contracts. Rock Island agreed to it early, said this is, this is how the cost shakes out, and we accept it. Other cities fought with it for quite some time. When costs like that go up for your smaller communities, as commissioner, how do you balance those needs? I mean, if the sheriff is saying it costs us X amount of dollars to police Manson and Waterville, and we're not getting it under the current contract, which side do you come down on?
I was one of the ones that helped. This has been going on, as you may know, for well over a year and a half, these sheriff contracts. And the initial ones they came out with, for Rock Island, for example, more than doubled what we were paying. The city of Rock Island, we have a $2 million a year budget. We get about $100,000 in property tax. They would have taken all of our property tax. We also get money from the state for law and justice, basically, and since we have none. Anyway, it would have taken all of that money as well, and then some. So it was not long-term economically viable, and that was true pretty much for all the small cities. So I was, the small cities pretty much united and said, this doesn't work. And it started turning into an us versus them argument. And I could see that that's a losing proposition. So I went to the county commissioners and got them to agree to sit down with the small cities, the mayors. And like I said, it's not us versus them. We're all in this together. I understand your needs, but you have to understand ours. And we started having meetings on that, and it worked out very well. They readjusted the contract, made it much more acceptable. And I did sign early, but I signed with the agreement from the county commissioners that they will work with the mayors over the next few years to come up with a sustainable solution. Because even what we've done, they've made it economically viable for the first few years, but pretty soon it outruns we'll just go bankrupt.
Could the solution be a law and justice tax in Douglas County?
Could be.
So that's something to watch out for in coming years.
Possibly. Currently, Chelan County, they collect 0.3 of a cent on sales tax for their law and justice. Douglas County only collects 1/10. But another big issue for Douglas County is jail. Currently we have they call it regional, but it's really Chelan County Jail. The cost for the county last year went up over $600,000. That's not sustainable, obviously. So they're looking for a long-term solution. So any increase in that, the potential 2/10 of a sales tax would have to include a jail as well as the rest of it. But I think that's well worth working for. It's something we have to do.
Douglas County and East Wenatchee were working toward an interlocal agreement to annex 600 homes into the city last year. It had to be an agreement of the Douglas County Commissioners and the East Wenatchee City Council. City Council agreed, voted 5-1, I want to say. Ultimately, the Douglas County Commissioners decided 3-0 not to go that direction. So, how do you feel about that particular decision, and also about the interlocal agreement process that can be put in place between counties and cities now?
I like the concept of the interlocal agreement. That's a new option for annexation that the legislature enabled about 2 or 3 years ago. On the other hand, it does kind of bypass the will of the people. And I think that's what ultimately killed the one between Douglas County and East Wenatchee. When they started having the public hearings on it, they had a bunch of people showing up saying, no, we don't want this.
And that was the decision of the commissioners. Ultimately, they said this should be a vote of the people.
Right. And since I was on the city council for 5 years, I already said that, but we did an annexation during that time, and the mayor at that time did not go talk to the people. So when we had the public hearings, 2 of them, we had a bunch of people show up that were unhappy, did not want to be annexed, and it barely passed. I've done a large annexation since I've been mayor, and I went out and talked to every single homeowner, and by the time we had our public hearings, nobody showed up to complain.
So you think that outreach and making the people a partner in the process is what helps?
Exactly, and just explaining to them what's going to happen. And it basically, as I explained to people, ultimately the only difference is who plows your street. And Rock Island does a better job than the county.
Well, Randy, you're running in District 2 for Douglas County Commissioner. If you advance in the primary, it'll be because the people in your district voted that way. When you go to the general election, the whole county votes on who represents District 2 on the Douglas County Commissioners Board. Is that the way it should be? It's an interesting process.
I find it odd that there's 2 different methods, one for the primary and one for the general. In the primary, it's just the district. In the general, it's the entire county. Exactly which way it should be, I'm not sure. Although once elected, I do represent the entire county. So I think it's fair that the entire county have a vote on that. On the other hand, it should be consistent, I think.
You have sometimes, Randy, written editorials, open letters, opinion pieces that have been published in local newspapers. And in November 2020, you had a column called an IQ test. This had to do with the COVID-19 pandemic. You raised a lot of questions that you said were concerning you about the way these numbers of infections and deaths were reported, what their seriousness was for the population at large. That was in November 2020. We didn't know a lot in November 2020. So we're 4 years out. There's been 1.1 million Americans died of COVID, 26 people in Douglas County as of last year. Any thoughts or wishes to revisit that particular column?
No, I think I was accurate in what I was saying then. Except for even the very oldest people. You had what was it, 0.04 or 0.004% chance of dying from COVID. And even with the numbers you're talking about, that is the percentage. I don't feel that's any bigger threat than a bad flu season. Same numbers, actually. And I was getting all my numbers from the CDC. I wasn't making them up. And 4 years out, look at, in my opinion, locking down the entire economy, putting businesses, small businesses, out of business, I think was an absolute disaster.
You think the cure was worse than the condition?
Totally. I still do.
I would say that 26 people in Douglas County having died by attributable COVID causes is 26 people who might still be alive today.
How?
How could they still be alive?
Yeah, I mean, what would have kept them alive? And the reason I ask, look at the flu seasons. How many people die every year during the flu season? What would keep them alive?
A medical intervention.
Some people are going to die. We all die of something sooner or later. I'm not, making light of that by any means. But when you have so many people dying of the flu, that's the result of diseases. COVID, I don't think, was any different than a bad flu season.
Well, what do you think, that aside, Randy, what do you think being a mayor has taught you that you could apply to managing a large county like Douglas? I know you've said it's similar on a smaller scale, but
Right.
what particular lessons would you take forward from what you've done at Rock Island to what you would do for the county?
The lessons are, as I said before, represent the people. I represent the people, not the county. I mean, the county's second. Basically, my perspective is government is supposed to serve the people. And an elected official's job, the way I look at it, is to make sure that it does that. I would do the same thing at the county that I did at the city. We've, in my time at the city, it's part of the growth is the developers like working with us. We work with them to get the job done, not to hinder them, not to slow them up. And I don't know, just make the regulatory stuff as simple and easy as possible.
Randy Agnew, Mayor of Rock Island and candidate for Douglas County Commissioner, I appreciate you coming in today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You're watching the NCW Life channel.